I have good news and I have bad news. The good news is if you're in Ohio, abortion is on the ballot tomorrow. And if you're pro-life, you can actually get up and get off your butt and go do something about it. The bad news is that abortion shouldn't even be on the ballot because the last time it was on the ballot, you didn't get up and get off your butt and go do something about it. So either you're going to or you're not. And I'm going to echo someone else's sentiments here. So I'm basically ripping someone off. I forget who it was. They said, that crazy liberal white woman with no life and 10 cats, I promise you she's going to go vote for abortion tomorrow. Are you too busy? Practicing games on and stuff like that? Okay, then don't complain when it's enshrined in your Constitution. Joining me now, Greg Price, Communication Director of the Great State Freedom Caucus Network, and Shawn Carney, President and CEO of 40 Days for Life. Shawn, we've been covering this a lot. We always will. Please tell me we're going to win in Ohio.
I hope we do, but this approach in a post-Roe America of we will panic, we will tell people that women are dying in the streets, we will say that young rape victims are in danger of dying. We will use every scare tactic to push abortion through. This is exactly what they did, and I know you've covered it, but this proposition is insane. It allows abortion through all 40 weeks. It allows minors to get an abortion without parental consent. It allows adults to assist minors to get an abortion without parental consent with no repercussions for the adult who assists the minor to get the abortion. It obviously has the sex changes with no parental consent, but the abortion part is absolutely insane, and it does go through all 40 weeks.
Of course it does. Of course it goes all 40 weeks. Greg, let's do a little rewind here, just so everyone remembers, and it's important we look back on how we've failed terribly. Why is the red state of Ohio, very red now, used to be purple, very red, why is the red state of Ohio, why is there even an option to enshrine abortion in the state's constitution, Greg?
Well, it's very simple, Jesse, and that is the pro-abortion side is extremely motivated and extremely well-funded, extremely loud, extremely angry, a lot more so than our side, which is very, very disappointing. And you've seen, in states everywhere all over the country, abortion has become, abortion bans in particular have become electoral poison for our side for those various reasons. And so I think this in Ohio is a legitimate test for the pro-life movement, because this isn't even a ban. It's a constitutional amendment to continue to enshrine abortion in the Constitution. And if we can't, keep that out of the Constitution in a ruby red state like Ohio, we got a real problem. It's a legitimate test. I think it's also something that hasn't been talked about too often, a legitimate test for the faith community too. Like, if you're so committed to the pro-life movement and protecting unborn life as you claim to be, faith leaders and faith institutions have to be heavily involved. And this is going to be a real test and to see just how motivated our side is to get out there and vote to protect life.
Shawn, I'm glad Greg brought up this point. Look, simple numbers-wise, the amount of Christians, Catholics, whatever, the amount of church-going people in Ohio, I have no doubt, exceeds the number of people who love abortion by orders of magnitude. Therefore, this shouldn't even be close. So I have to ask, even though I already know the answer, where are the Christians?
Well, this has been, I think, a positive on this front from what I've seen, because typically you get things like this and you never hear from anybody. But the Catholic bishops of all the dioceses of Ohio have spoken strongly and told people to vote no. They poured $1 million into the campaign. It's encouraging news. We always don't get a lot of encouraging news from clergy. But the Catholic bishops I know have done a lot. They've poured $1 million into it. They've been adamant. Everything y'all are saying, it just doesn't make sense. I agree with you. This is Ohio. In a lot of ways, this is the birth of the pro-life movement. This is where pregnancy centers started before Roe v. Wade legalized abortion. Cincinnati is one of the most pro-life towns in the United States, if not the most pro-life major cities in the United States. There's a lot going for our side. I am worried about the wording. This was the problem in Kansas last year when abortion won. The Kansas, you walk up to vote and you're pro-life, you better have like 3 lawyers with you to explain what the heck it is you're trying to vote for. It is very confusing when you read the wording that's on the ballot. It's basically, do you want to be good and help healthcare, or do you want to be horrible? And it's word salad, it's long-winded, And people need to know, in the end, vote no.
In the end, vote no. Okay, Greg, give me an update, if you will, because you're running this wonderful State Freedom Caucus thing, among others. What's going on with abortion in other states at the state level? I know we've had some wins. Are we still getting those?
Yeah, we've had tons of wins over the last year. You know, in South Carolina, they passed the heartbeat bill, I think, 2 years ago, and then it got struck down by the state Supreme Court. But they passed it again, and this time the court had a conservative majority, so we got the heartbeat bill in South Carolina. North Carolina passed maybe not a strong enough pro-life law, but they passed a pro-life law as well. We've gotten this done in states, you know, like Montana, and in states like Idaho. And so, you know, there have been a ton of wins over the last year for the pro-life community, but there have also been a lot of losses. And I think the losses have kind of, they've gotten certainly a lot more attention than the wins, specifically in places like Kansas. You know, and I think, you know, the pro-life movement really has to think about their strategy for the future, not just to affect legislation, but to win hearts and minds. I think, you know, I don't think we were as ready as we should have been for what the electoral situation would look like in a post-Roe America. And that certainly has reflected itself. And I think our strategy needs to improve greatly for the future.
Speaking of hearts and minds, Glenn Youngkin was talking about 15 weeks, Sean. Well, here he is.
I really feel that this is a moment for us to come together around reasonable limits where we can protect life at 15 weeks, where a baby feels pain, with full exceptions in the case of rape and incest and when the mother's life is at risk. And I think this is a place that Virginians can come together. All the way up through birth is way too extreme. This is a place we can come together and settle on a very difficult topic. And I think we can lead here as opposed to fight.
Well, yeah, but current Virginia law says it has 26 weeks, has abortion access up to 26 weeks. Why not just leave that law in place?
Well, what I'm hearing from Virginians, and nearly 70% have responded that they would support a bill to protect life at 15 weeks with full exceptions where a baby can feel pain. And I think this is a reasonable place for us to land. And what's on the ballot, I think, is a choice between no limits.
Okay, Sean, look, I'm obviously a bit more hardcore on it than 15 weeks, to put it mildly. I don't even believe in exceptions, but I'm also all about moving the ball in the right direction. Glenn Youngkin's in Virginia, 15 weeks, if that's what they can get. Are we okay with that for now, understanding that we'll want more later? Are we okay with that for now?
No. I mean, this is, I think, a well-intentioned, there's a lot of good Republicans pushing this. It's a good intention in a post-Roe America where they're scrambling, you know, hoping abortion doesn't come up. It's well-intentioned. It's awful. It's completely stupid, and it sounds bad, and it's not based on science. So it's okay to abort the baby if he or she can't feel pain. So now we're the party of mercy killing. I mean, they can't feel anything. What's the big deal? And what in the world? We're just grabbing 15 weeks out of thin air. What happens when you're 14 weeks and 6 days? What happens in the 24 hours where all of a sudden you get to stay? You get to live amongst us. I hate the 15-week ban. I think it's a huge mistake. I also think it's a loser politically. Who's going to convert? Who's going to come together? These people want abortion at 40 weeks and they want infanticide, especially in Virginia where their previous governor, you know, articulated on the radio. Who's going to say, oh, yeah, 15 weeks, I'll go for that? We cannot continue to solidify the dehumanization of the unborn. And of course, all politics is compromise. Everybody knows that. But 15 weeks is a joke. And I think it makes people cringe. I don't know why they don't embrace the heartbeat bills. The heartbeat bills were very, very popular in the states where they passed because it humanized the baby. I think that's a good starting point before we ban all abortions, because people can relate to a beating heart. We spend a lot of money keeping our hearts beating in our country. So I don't like the 15-week at all. I have nothing positive to say about it.
I support it. Sean, Greg, thank you, boys.